We've all had that moment. You stand in front of a celebrated piece of abstract art, or you open a famous classic novel, and nothing happens. You're left in a vacuum, wondering if the problem is you, if you simply lack the intelligence to see the genius everyone else is talking about. Take Marcel Duchamp's Fountain, or James Joyce's Ulysses. These are the heavyweights of modern masterpieces. They are also notoriously hostile to anyone who isn't already an expert. James Joyce didn't just stumble into this difficulty. He boasted that he intentionally built Ulysses as a puzzle to keep literary critics busy for 50 years. He was designing a gate, not a bridge. This diagram illustrates the Veblen effect, a concept where difficulty itself becomes a marker of prestige. If a luxury car's value is protected by its price, an artwork's value can be protected by its complexity. The labor required to get it acts as a filter, ensuring the work remains an exclusive status symbol for those with the time or training to decode it. This raises a question about the very nature of creation. When an artist builds an impenetrable wall around their work, are we seeing a deeper level of genius, or just a sophisticated way of ensuring the public stays on the other side? We can see this tension play out in the careers of the masters themselves. Consider Ezra Pound. His massive, hyper-pedantic epic, The Cantos, is famous for being unreadable. It's an artist playing a game of solitaire that almost no one outside of academia ever sees. But then, look at Pound's two-line poem, In a Station of the Metro. It's short, sharp, and hits the reader instantly. When he sets aside the academic armor to actually communicate, the impact is undeniable. T.S. Eliot found a middle ground. His poem, The Love Song of Alfred Prufrock, is dense and full of obscure references, but it works because it is anchored to a very human fear. We don't need a degree to understand a man worrying about his age or his social failures. Structural complexity isn't a failure on its own. It only fails when the artist uses their intellect as a place to hide, abandoning the human pulse that art is supposed to capture. This line between innovation and isolation is clearer in the visual arts, especially if we look at the two very different faces of Marcel Duchamp. In his early work, like Nude Descending a Staircase, the complexity is earned. It uses the language of cubism to solve a difficult problem: how to show the fluid energy of a body moving through time on a flat, static canvas. Then there is Fountain. It is a factory-made urinal with a signature scribbled on the side. This is sophistry, an intellectual bluff. There is no artistic labor in the object itself. The entire work is just a forced philosophical argument that the viewer is pressured to accept as profound. Propping up a lazy effort with a mountain of academic justification doesn't turn an ordinary object into a masterpiece. It just makes the viewer feel like they're being tricked. René Magritte also played with these intellectual puzzles, but he showed us that there are two very different ways to challenge a viewer's perspective. His famous pipe painting, The Treachery of Images, is essentially an academic joke. It relies on the text below to explain the contradiction. To get it, you have to step out of the experience and think about it like a linguistics student. But look at his piece, Carte Blanche. Here, the trick is purely visual. A woman on horseback weaves through a forest, but the trees and the empty space seem to swap places. One approach demands you study a glossary to get the point. The other doesn't ask for permission. In Carte Blanche, the paradox is immediate. You watch the horse pass behind a patch of empty air, and your brain simply registers that the rules of sight have been broken. When we look at these tests side by side, a pattern emerges. Extreme difficulty is not a synonym for depth. In fact, choosing to be unreadable is often a failure of the medium. We see this choice in the drafting of James Joyce's manuscripts. These pages are a record of intentional obfuscation. Joyce wasn't editing for clarity. He added layers of noise, burying the story under a mountain of handwritten corrections designed to keep readers at a distance. There's an old metaphor for this: the immortal who ascends to a mountain peak, standing alone above the clouds in a state of isolated enlightenment. It's a powerful image, but it's a lonely way to exist. A true master doesn't stay behind a wall of pedantry in the clouds. They take the same raw, difficult human experiences we all face, the isolation of a metro station or the confusion of our own senses, and find a way to translate them into a language that connects us, rather than keeping us out.